Good afternoon, and welcome to this virtual legislative visit. We are especially pleased to welcome so many of our Madison area legislators and staff. You will have a chance to introduce yourself to some of your constituents in the second part of this session. Before we go any further, I do want to let everyone know that we are recording today's event. The recording of the first part of our program before we move into breakout rooms will be shared with the Office of Representative Dane and will also be posted on our website. My name is Sandra Brown, and I am designated Vice President of Moses. Moses is the Madison area affiliate of Wisdom, a statewide network of faith-based organizations that include Expo, ex-incarcerated people organizing. In seeking to create the beloved community envisioned by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Wisdom's actions and advocacy follow these three guidelines and values: radical inclusion, costly reconciliation, and living for the seventh generation. We invite you to read more about how these values inform our work in the booklet, Wisdom's Priorities for Wisconsin 2021 through 2023, that was shared with you electronically and with Legislative Office in hard copy earlier this week. Moses is made up of over 20 congregational members as well as an active individuals caucus. The mission of Moses is to build collective power to dismantle the systems of mass incarceration and mass supervision, and to eradicate the racial disparities in our community that contribute to them. In Moses, we envision an end to the systems of mass incarceration and mass supervision, an end to systemic racism, reallocation of resources to create racial and economic equity, and a just society without discrimination in which people thrive. Members of Moses participate in most of Wisdom's statewide task forces, and we also have several task forces addressing issues connecting to our mission in Dane County. The backbone of community organizing is building relationships, and that is why we're here today, to connect legislators and constituents to engage around issues of importance to all of us. I now invite Patty LaCrosse to take the mic and center us with a reflection and prayer.
Thank you, Sandra. This privileged gathering around the work of justice for our community is worth a moment's pause. Presenting oneself for public office and joining a community organization with and on behalf of those who are currently or formerly incarcerated are not dissimilar acts of hope. And hope springs from the possibility that we can do better together. But it takes love, and expanding love, to give oneself over to the work of justice in any capacity. For many of us, that love is inspired and nurtured in a faith tradition. You may be rooted in the Jewish scriptures, in which Moses was empowered to free the people from slavery in Egypt, or inspired by Jesus, whose preaching against the Roman oppression of marginalized in his world led to his execution, or grounded in the teachings of Muhammad that Allah is just and practice almsgiving, mercy, and fasting. You may follow the precepts of Gautama Buddha in respecting all living beings and want to free them from suffering, or honor the traditions of a First Nation people in how you walk on this earth, or find your wisdom and courage through another spiritual program. By whatever name you have for the holy, your higher power, however you are nurtured in your work, let us all in this moment we are given together join in gratitude for this day and our shared dedication to the work of justice. Creating justice requires the sharing of power. So let us pray to surrender ourselves to that common call to love justly, to communicate respectfully, and to commit to supporting programs that care for the most vulnerable in our own communities and state. May our real prosperity shine forth with equity and peace for all. And may all our work, our lives, and the lives of all our fellow residents of Wisconsin be blessed. Amen.
Amen.
Fawn, you're muted. You're muted.
Thank you. Thank you, Patty, and thank you, Ann. My name is Fawn Bilgier. I've been a member of Moses since 2011. I'm going to take just a moment to explain our format today. We hope that you have all had a chance to review the Wisdom Book Priorities booklet that Sandra mentioned earlier, but we understand that you may not have been able to do more than skim a few pages. It's quite a dense document, and we know this is a busy time of year. So we're going to give you a brief overview. Rather than try to cram a summary of every issue covered by the booklet into like 10 minutes, we'll highlight just a few of the issues that are particularly relevant to Moses and our mission. These issues will be illustrated by stories from impacted people. After each impacted person shares their story, I will state Wisdom's ask of the legislature around that issue. We will spend the rest of our time together in breakout rooms. I'll explain how those rooms will work before we move into them. The first issue that we are highlighting is affordable housing. I would like to introduce Latoya Greer, who will bring this issue to life for you. Latoya, please take the mic.
Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for having me here. I am Latoya Greer, and I am the organizer for the Free Campaign here in Dane County. And I became the Free Campaign organizer last year, back in July, when Free Campaign first came to the Dane County area. So I appreciate you all for having me here on this important discussion. So one of the things that I would like to say is housing wage is more than low-income workers typically make in Madison. Lack of affordable housing can lock people out of good job opportunities. Different families are very differently situated in terms of childcare expenses, healthcare expenses, and other necessities, but that's the official definition. Sometimes area median income exaggerates the true stability of housing in our high income areas. Mid-price houses are not becoming magically affordable to the city's actual low income residents. And by that, I mean, imagine yourself a low income parent. You are the primary caregiver to your child, and you do not have the things that you need to sustain your child. You're working 2 jobs, and you also have to care for your child as a single parent. So therefore, you have to leave your child with people for different hours of the day, but you still cannot afford to pay for your apartment or make the 3 times of the amount of rent that's expected in Madison. When I first moved to Madison, I was working as a waitress at IHOP, and then I also had a job at Walgreens. Those 2 jobs combined were not enough for me to be able to take care of my household and for me to be able to take care of my child. I ended up having to send my child to Chicago to be with my family so that I could pick up another job just so that I could be able to pay rent to secure my child while living in a domestic shelter. This is unacceptable, and families like me are struggling the same way that I have had to struggle since living in Madison. Housing policies are so arbitrary, overbroad, and unnecessarily harsh that they exclude even people who have turned their lives around and remain law-abiding citizens, as well as others who may have never presented any risk in the first place. Under existing policies, criminal records will shadow people for the rest of their lives. Even an arrest that is not followed by conviction can have a lifelong impact. With that, I mean, currently policies are preventing people with criminal histories from being able to get some housing, not just in Madison, but across the United States. And that's people like me, because I am a directly impacted individual who had been arrested about 12 years ago for 0.6 bag of marijuana. And I also was arrested for a battery 5 years ago. And at this time, I have not been arrested since 2000 and well, I'll say 4 years ago in 2017, and I have not been arrested since then. But that could prevent me from being able to get housing assistance, even though I had to go through all the struggles of a single parent without another custodial parent in the household, just me and my daughter. But those type of things are the things that prevent working mothers like me from being able to get stable housing. So I ask that you listen to Fawn as she comes with our ask today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your story, LaToya. We asked the legislature to transfer $20 million of the $50 million GPR Affordable Workforce Housing Grant Program at the Department of Administration to the homelessness prevention budget for programs that increase access to affordable housing. That $10 million of this funding should be transferred in each of the following years, 2021 to 22 and 2022 to 23, for housing equity programs, which are guided by impacted people, increasing access to affordable housing for those living with incomes in the low to extremely low range and with high rental barriers, primarily those with eviction and conviction histories. Our next issues are treatment alternatives and diversions, or TAD, and expanding the earned release program. I would like to introduce our next impacted speaker, Jerome Dillard. Jerome, the mic is yours.
Thank you, Fawn. Good afternoon. My name is Jerome Dillard. I am the State Director of Ex-Incarcerated People Organizing. Also a member of Moses and Wisdom, and Expo is an affiliate of Wisdom, and I'm also a member of Moses. I am happy to be here with you this afternoon, especially to talk about this tremendous opportunity for us in the state of Wisconsin to look at treatment alternatives diversions and how we're doing it. I was fortunate enough to be on the Treatment Alternative Diversion Selections Committee and Advisory Committee when it was first formed, which it came about in 2005 with Act 25, that we began to talk about treatment alternatives and diversions in this state. We worked for roughly 2 years as a committee to fund treatment alternative diversions. Over the years, there have been some increases to treatment alternative diversions. And today, after all these years, we're only at $7.2 million to fund such an important program. Over time, we realized that this is something that is effective, it works, and it saves dollars. And therefore, I feel that it should have been invested years ago. And today we're asking for an increase in treatment alternative diversions of $15 million on top of the $7.2 million that is already funded. Most of the increase came over the years to expand the program to additional counties. And yet still the original counties like Dane County and Milwaukee County have not had a tremendous increase in funding coming from the state. I feel that treatment alternatives diversions, we have an opportunity to expand that to mental health courts, which is greatly needed in our state, to veteran courts that I've seen around the country that is happening, and of course the treatment courts for alcohol and other drug treatments. I am glad to be here, but the expansion of the earned release program is something that We've had opportunity of talking with Secretary Carr of the Department of Corrections and others within his administration. And I am ecstatic about some of the bold moves that corrections are making to reduce the population in many ways. And the earned release program being expanded to an additional 1,000 individuals would be a plus and give individuals finally a way of earning their way out of the system and back into the community. I'm going to hand it back to Don for our acts. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, Jerome. We asked the legislature to include the $15 million a year increase in TAD funding for the second year of the biannual state budget and expand eligibility for TAD programming to include people with mental health needs. And we asked the legislature to expand the earned release program as proposed in the governor's budget, which will result in savings to taxpayers and reduce prison populations while making communities safer and families healthier. The final issue that we're highlighting today is public instruction and educational improvement. And our speaker is Eugene Chrysler. Eugene, I invite you to take the mic.
Thank you, Fawn. Hello, my name is Eugene Chrysler L. I'm affiliated with Wisdom and serve as Moses Vice President. I'm also a fellow through Expo. When I was a child at 9 years young, my mother was sentenced to 14 years in prison. I was placed in the foster care system. I became so emotionally and mentally distraught. This ultimately affected my education, my family, and even my identity. I had to see a psychologist weekly. Still to this day, I still see one. I visit the psychologist weekly. I believe that the support systems and services that can help children and families' needs are essential for a healing community. Wisdom and Moses' priorities are highly aligned with the governor's budget initiatives for public education. We applaud the governor's efforts to implement these and other progressive policies in support of children and families in schools. The governor's proposed expansion of public instructions programming will contribute to improved services to students. We're especially interested in helping schools to better serve children in need of mental health and out-of-school time support. It's time for Wisconsin to be bold. While Wisdom and Moses continue to passionately advocate for significant change in the carceral system, we are also dedicated to prevention and to stopping the childhood to school to prison pipeline. To do this effectively, we need to be serious about addressing and healing childhood trauma experiences, especially for our Black and brown children and children living in poverty, where the likelihood of traumatic experiences run deep. The services Governor Evers proposes to expand will contribute to the success of all our children and help reduce undesired consequences resulting from ill-served needs for children suffering from childhood trauma, including behavioral issues that can lead to excessive suspensions and expulsions, which then can lead into the prison to pipeline. Again, we respectfully request that these items be retained in the biennial budget. And I turn it over to Fawn. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, Eugene. We asked the legislature to include $47 million in mental health aid to reimburse school expenditures for social workers, counselors, psychologists, and nurses, and to increase rural mental health services. To include $3.5 million annually for the provision of mental health services to pupils through collaborative school/community partnerships. To include a $710 million increase for special education. To include a $28 million increase and expand eligibility for English language learners. And to include a $20 million increase in sparsity aid for rural districts. The issues that we have chosen to address here are by no means all of the issues that Moses is involved with. nor are they all of the issues that Wisdom is prioritizing in this state budget season. To name just a few more issues related to the budget, we urge the legislature to increase funding for transitional jobs and for community-based alternatives to revocation, to keep driver's licenses for undocumented Wisconsinites in the state budget, and to return 17-year-olds to the juvenile justice system. To learn more about these and other issues, let me encourage you again to look through the booklet. To maximize connection between constituents and legislators, we decided to organize our breakout rooms by state Senate district. We hope that everyone understands that in Moses and in Wisdom, we look at this legislative visit not as an end in itself, but as part of an ongoing conversation. We look forward to connecting with you, our elected officials and staff, again in the future.